In neo-paganism today, there's a strong leaning towards the goddess religion, which I have nothing against a goddess religion. I do, however, have some misgivings about people who solely embrace a goddess-based religion, and it's usually done as a retribution against the idiocy of having a solely God-based religion. We can see how Christianity has turned out. I warn people about a pure goddess religion. You would be surprised how much more vindictive and potentially deadly of the species the female is than even the male. The male could be angry, vengeful, and destructive, but generally it goes away. It blows over. Women seethe, plot, create intricate traps, and the mental anguish that they can create lasts a very long time. Where the Judeo-Christian God sent a thunderstorm and blew shit up and then got over it, you would be hard-pressed to find me ever wanting to deal with an angry goddess. So if you think that having a sole woman-hating father god in Judeo-Christianity was a bad thing, let me tell you about what would happen. I don't even want to think about what would happen if you had a man-hating, angry, time of the month for eons, pure goddess-based religion. Just don't do it. Just don't. Do what was naturally meant to happen, is that there was a male and a female, and they both understood that as high priest and high priestess of their tribe, that they were essentially the spiritual mother and father of all those people, and they had to balance out the powers of the father and the powers of the mother to make sure their whole tribe was okay. So if you are worshiping a purely goddess-based Wicca, really rethink that. Really go, you know what can the god offer me? Because here's the real thing. There can be no better worshiper and lover of the goddess than the god. He loves her deeper, more, stronger, better than any human could ever do so. And for men, there is no better caretaker, nurturer, healer, exciter, stress reliever, pleasure giver to a god than the goddess. So if you want to learn how to really treat a woman, really meditate on how the god would treat the goddess, or how Ing would treat Inga. And for a woman, if you really want to take care of a man, meditate on how Inga would take care of Ing. Because there is no domestic violence between this pair. I mean, they are the warriors of each other, the high priest and priestess of each other to the highest degree. And you are all their children. And it is the children that create all the domestic violence and craziness and baby mama drama that, doesn't exist within the realms of what is, Ing and Inga. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. So these are things that you should really meditate on. As a man, you could learn a lot from meditating on Ing. He is robust, physically powerful, very active. He hunts, he runs, he dances, he makes wine, he entertains children. He is the so-called master of ceremonies. He is the one that leads the drums. He is the one that really kind of takes over as head of ritual often. He is the thing that makes things happen. And he has a great deal of responsibility put on his shoulders. He wears the he wears the crown of horns. He really does. So he is the one that embraces the wild animalistic powers that they lived around. However, women, you could learn a lot because The goddess was the altar. In the old witch cults, if they didn't have a stone, and generally I think stone altars were more of a permanent thing, when they did ritual, the woman herself was that which was adorned. So the fivefold kiss truly is something from the old witch cults. So they kissed the places on the woman's body that truly were places of profound pleasure, because, I mean, if it felt good, it was divine. Why not? It's only Judeo-Christian and the big three, Islam and Judaism, that seems to have a weird thing about pleasure. And, you know, when you have to somehow kill away a goddess and lock all the guys up together and try not to be homos, you know, wow, weird shit happens. So, you know, and obviously it did happen. So, you know, so these women really took pleasure in the fact that they knew what parts of their bodies felt good. They knew what their bodies did and the functions they performed. They truly understood it. So men adored them because life came from them. Men were the defenders of life, so they worshipped life itself, and the woman was the life giver. Men also gave life, but I don't think it was fully understood. However, their ejaculation could be considered as a wounding. So men in the old witch cults had to get wounded. They had to feel, which is part of the sword. They had to feel what it was to bleed. They had to always give up the male energy in the old witch cults, and now of Wicca, is that of sacrifice. You always have to give a piece of yourself away. Always. Much like the deer or the elk shed his horns. There was blood in that, but his horns always grew back. The man was the regenerative nature of the forest. In one of our old songs that I love is Hoof and Horn, and it talked about hoof and horn, all who die shall be reborn. Vine and grain, all cut down, shall rise again. This meant that they would cut things from the forest and whatnot, and then in a week it would be back. So the men realized that, you know what, I can give a little bit of blood, I can give a little bit of semen, you know, I could give my, you know, whatever, I can give my hair, you know, and sometimes even their life, because they knew, they understood that they would be reborn back. So for the man, it was always about sacrifice. For the woman, it was always about transformation. A man gave his blood so that the tribe can continue. The woman then had to take what the man had given, which was his life, and say, okay, now with you gone, how can we continue to make this life grow? And maybe I'll give birth to you. You know, a man gave her his semen, and she takes that and transforms it into a baby. So her belly is the cauldron of transformation. If you really want to know old witch cults, go back and meditate and even try to summon Caradwyn and tell her flat out you want to learn the old mysteries. She is a stern and sometimes scary goddess, but she is second to none in her understanding of the old witch cults. I really wish I could talk a lot about the herbology that we do. It would be very difficult, and this is one of the other reasons why Wicca in America is so difficult, because the old witch cults, everything they did was based upon herbs and plants of their big giant forest, that not all of them necessarily grow here. So to be part of a lot of these old witch cults, you had to get specific herbs and partake of them and do ritual with them. Oftentimes they had psychotropic side effects and whatnot, which really did alter your mind, really did alter your perception of the world, and gave you a very strong association with the spirit of that plant. So that's another issue that would be very difficult. And so trying to come up with a North American-based form of Wicca, it's been trying, and this coven has been mildly successful, but that's still something that we struggle with. So trying to keep this on track. So the Wicca is what religiously we really use. Wicca is where I learned to call down a god form. Wicca is where I learned to channel. Wicca is where I learned to become spiritually, a certain set of animals. Wicca is where I learned the art of self-sacrifice. Wicca is where I learned to cultivate a warrior spirit and went through a couple initiations where I was left alone or lost purposely in woods and being slightly inebriated, and which was done on purpose, and left alone to deal with my own fears, and then attacked by members of the coven that I didn't know came out and had laid in waiting, and really sort of tricked me into thinking that something bad had happened to the members that I had come with. I had to, in that moment, they were really testing me. They were really saying, would he defend members of this coven? And the answer unequivocally was yes. So, Wicca is where I really learned to love religion. Really learned to love, deep mysteries of life and death and the creation of life, and really where I learned to love sexuality. I mean, I loved it before, but really learned to love it. And, I learned to play the role of a satyr. I learned to play the role of a wounded hero. I learned to play the role of a king, of like a priest king. So these are valuable things that I have learned from Wicca, and in the way that we do Wicca, which, isn't tie-dye and beating drums, which, if that's where you come from, that's okay. But I just want you to really begin to rethink what Wicca is, because there's a wealth of information out there that you're kind of missing out on. And, here's the thing. I have written 3 books now on the art and practice of Wicca that I do. And there is a certain big company with a little crescent moon that has each time sent them back saying, your material is too, I get the words raw, I get the words rough, I get the words advanced for their particular clientele base. And so I want to begin to release this information, maybe in an ebook that would cost like $5. I'm not looking to get rich. Part of my great work is to release information and reform what paganism, true, mystical, functional, foundational, organized paganism is, without the elitist, nutjob, psychopathic bullshit that the Illuminati pulls. The Illuminati was, because they had already infiltrated the Golden Dawn, Aleister Crowley was a major part of them, had a strong hand in the way Wicca was. They helped create another opiate for the masses. They knew Christianity wasn't going to hold everyone. So they helped create another opiate that people could follow and get like a tingly good sensation for, and it's a corner that they own. And they, again, they own a big, large publishing company that doesn't like real information out there. It wants to keep you devoid. It wants to keep you guessing. It wants to keep you feeling hollow. So you have to buy another book and another book and another book, and ooh, this one looks slightly different, and it maybe have like a little tidbit of information you didn't know about. And you're like, oh man. No, I would much rather just say, boom, this is the information that we do. This is the successes that we've had with it. It's real. It is raw. It's life and pain and pleasure and tears and laughter and all these things that are raw base emotions that the human goes through in its connection with divinity and the other worlds and all these things that channel through, and it's a big, crazy, loving, harsh pleasure fest, and of power and wounding and healing and all those great things. that a human should go through. So I hope this video didn't seem too elitist, but I just want to release that Wicca is so much more than what it is, and that is the true religion of this order, and that the magical practices that we release are just magical practices and don't necessarily have to form you into any type of religion.